Years. For 40 years, we've run a trade deficit. Oh, not just some little minor deficit. But a trade deficit means that you're exporting your net worth, and it will never come back. And no nation has ever consistently done that. It's been great. No nation. Right now, we export 12% of our GDP, and we import 19%. That's 7 percentage points is anywhere from 600 billion to 720 billion a year. Gone! I served on the banking committee for 8 years in the 1980s. I knew them well. The bubble hid the real economic woes of America. And let me sum up what that woe is. The loss of made in America. Come with me across New Hampshire. Town after town, city after city, closed factories, ball bearing plants, automobile parts, gone. But the overwhelming factor is a change in U.S. industrial policy after 160 years of protecting and defending American manufacturing jobs through tariffs from cheap foreign labor, namely England. George Washington started. Growing the greatest economy on earth based on protecting our workers from unfair trade. We are the enemy. We changed that policy, not China. We did it. And it wasn't this president, although he might be the worst. Bill Clinton, did you see the efforts Bill put in? On making sure we gave away 6 million jobs in manufacturing during his term? And George W. stepped up the pace. Couldn't get rid of these workers soon enough.
With Governor Buddy Roemer getting some food. And if you said earlier you've never been through Dayton, Ohio.
Never been to Dayton.
I would challenge you to take a drive through Dayton, Ohio. If you've been through Detroit, a lot of people call Dayton Little Detroit. And yeah, and
the empty businesses.
Yes, a lot of empty businesses. Yeah, all of the telltale signs of decline. You're the only person I've heard so far even talk about free trade as an issue. A lot of people seem to be talking about a lot of things that really don't have anything to do with Joe Schmo's life.
You're right.
Or my life or your life.
You're
or
right.
anything. How are you going to get your message through? We haven't seen you.
I need to be on a national debate.
Okay.
I need to, and that's what I'm doing, concentrating in New Hampshire. I'm building my name recognition. I had 2% in the last poll. That was the threshold to get on a debate. So hopefully I will be accepted in the next few weeks on a debate. But I don't think they want to hear me in the Republican Party. I don't think they want to hear about the effect of money. I don't think they want to hear this message. But I'm going to keep laying it out there.
What's your thoughts on the Occupy Wall Street things going on right now?
I like it. They're unorganized. They're wrong in some things, but they're good to be there. We need to challenge the status quo. It's not working in America. I'm the only candidate who will go down there. I'll be there next Wednesday.
Is there anyone else in Congress or in the U.S. now or is there any way to get the money? It seems like right now, like everyone I talk to is like, they're going to do what they want to do regardless because they paid for the people and the people who are directing the people who they paid.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, the system is corrupt now. The only way to break it is to say no. I've said no.
Okay.
Now let's see if I can get on the national stage.
Now I got another question. I heard Dilligan Radigan say the other night that
I was on his show yesterday.
Okay, I like Dilligan. I don't like everything, but
me too. I'm the same way.
But man, he's just something about him I like.
Yeah.
You know, he said, you know, a lot of what we're going through now that no one's telling you is what the music industry went through a couple years ago, wherein the network technologies and the internet is changing everything, and we've got a lot of businesses that are incumbent legacy businesses who are trying to regulate very efficient businesses out, but they have enormous costs that they have, institutional buildings they've invested in.
Sunk cost.
Yes.
You don't have. But look, life is like that. I mean, change is a part of life. And the 4 keys to success are fast, focused, flexible, and friendly. And labor unions or companies that don't have those 4 things are doomed in the 21st century.
Okay.
And that's your rule. Remember, what are they?
The U.S. net trade deficit this year will be around $600 billion. In 1980, the trade accounts were balanced. We were in balance until around 1980. This year, $600 billion. In 1980, we were the world's largest creditor. By far, we're the world's largest debtor. We're a rich country. We're a big economy, but we've had a serious reversal. And so the question comes to that of why are we in this predicament? It is state capitalism. The means of production in China are owned by the state. They're state-owned enterprises. The Chinese operate off 5-year plans. China is now in its 12th 5-year plans. And in those 5-year plans, what the Chinese do is they determine which industries do they want to be changing, which industries will be secondary, which industries will receive monies, which industries will receive special tax breaks, and those industries get the focus. Another thing that's not, I think, commonly recognized, out of all of China industries, all of their profits go to the state at the end of the year. The Chinese government today holds $3.2 trillion of assets. Now that is enough. The New York Stock Exchange is valued at about $13 billion. The Chinese have enough money to buy majority control in at least a third of the companies on the New York Stock Exchange. Germany will export a $50,000 Mercedes-Benz to the United States. Mercedes-Benz will get a $10,000 rebate. So they're sending that car into the U.S. market for $40,000. Cadillac will send an Escalade, a $50,000 Escalade into Germany, and it has to add 19% of the VAT. So the Cadillac suddenly becomes a $60,000 market. There's some opportunities here as to what to do if we'll be smart and not requiring an expenditure of federal monies, that we can offset these advantages. One thing that we can do, we can use our rights under the WTO, the World Trade Organization, called timeout on trade. We have an emergency. With 8 million jobs lost because of trade, we have an emergency. And we can take that emergency and say, hey, we're going to take a timeout on all of our trade obligations until such time as we can bring our accounts into balance. We can do it by either exporting more or importing less. Richard Nixon used that in 1971 when we shifted from gold. Other countries use this all the time.
We're now the world's largest debtor of all time, globally to the tune of about $5 trillion. So how do we get into this mess? Was in Shanghai about almost 2 years ago, his first trip to China, and he did a joint press conference with President Hu Jintao. And I was listening to the press conference, and at a certain moment, the President said, we've agreed that the United States will help China develop its own commercial airline. And he said it very quickly and it kept on going. None of the press in I listened to that, I thought, holy mackerel. You know, we have a trade deficit with this country. Airplanes are one of the few things that we still make, that we export, in which we have a trade surplus. Why is the president saying we're going to help the Chinese develop their commercial aircraft to compete with ours?
The United States has failed to stand up for its own national interests. You know, China says to us, these matters are within the national sovereignty. You're not going to tell us what to do. But they're presuming to tell us what to do. They're basically telling us, this is the pressure on the Congress right now, we should not enforce the law against China. We have legitimate rights. Legally, we're in the right, they're in the wrong. By not standing up for our rights, we convey weakness which harms us on every other issue. It's not just about currency. So when we go with arguments about intellectual property protection, what's the fear for the Americans? All they do is talk. They never act. And then if you believe in the rule of law, as I do, President Reagan did, as we thought the Chinese were lying into when they became part of the WTO system, if you believe in the rule of law, you don't make excuses for scofflaws.
Do you think people in Washington, have they been through communities like Dayton, Ohio, or would they be afraid to get out of the car?
Well, one of the problems of public life is, even though it's public life, you get disconnected from the public. That's an occupational hazard, especially for elected officials. But, you know, career bureaucrats have the same problem. That's why it's so important to have, you know, sustained citizen involvement, sustained citizen input. That's what the Coalition for Prosperous America is trying to do, bringing together farmers, ranchers, trade unionists, small and medium-sized business guys with a coherent message. Now, if I were in charge, it may or may not be a good thing, and I'm sure it won't happen, but I think my advice to those people who are in charge is do a few big, important things, get those right, and the rest will take care of themselves. Get an effective response to currency manipulation. It's within our power to do that. Reform our tax system so that there are real incentives to save, invest, produce, and export from this country. Establish a real system for sustained investment in infrastructure, not scratch and patch projects, big projects. It's mostly a problem of funding. And there's money available. There's trillions of dollars in the world that can't find a use. Let's take some of that and put it to use here. Produce energy in this country to satisfy our own needs. We can certainly do that. I don't know what the right mix is. Let the market figure out the mix. But reward investment in energy production and energy distribution in this country. And then get a tough-minded, let's call it, tough-minded trade policy. My model, I served in the Reagan administration. My model is Ronald Reagan. He was strictly for reciprocity. He wanted free and fair trade with free and fair traders. He wanted respect for the rules, also a two-way street. I respect the rules, you must respect the rules. And the third, and this all comes from a radio address, 1986, is third R, I call these, reciprocity, rule of law. The third one was results. It's got to work for the country. If you do those 5 or 6 things in my list, this would be a different country. Americans would have a great sense of self-confidence. We would know where we fit in the world. We'd understand why investment should be taking place here. People could go to school with a sense that I'm going to have a career in this country. That's what's missing, I think, a real strong sense of national purpose.
Sure, I see a lot of people on the streets who say, I don't care, it ain't going to get no better, the people in charge are going to do whatever the hell they want to do, and I'm going to sit here drinking.
Yes. Unfortunately, I mean, you can understand that choice. I don't approve of it, but I understand it. And
but economics leads to
this country fundamentally.
Social problems or social solutions too on the other end.
Yes. So, but it's in our power to change these things. We ought to get organized to do it.
What do you think about the Occupy Wall Street movement going on right now? I mean,
40 years younger, I'd be there.
Okay.
I mean, I think again, I don't know what their program is precisely, but they're right to be angry and upset that a big sector of the American economy has put the rest of the economy at risk. The government response has been inadequate, and we got to get that right in order to go forward.
Yeah, I think maybe do you think a lot of people Well, I mean, we see Detroit on the news, but Detroit is very emblematic of the entire Midwest.
Sure.
You know,
Detroit, Erie, Buffalo. I mean,
did the Reagan administration expect the kind of, I mean, people in Dayton have seen a decline of their city for 40 years. I mean, not just a decline, we're talking about arson, physical decline, mental decline, social decline. One of the things people in Dayton say is, man, this city has such low self-esteem. Is it a surprise that America, are you surprised America 40 years later after being involved in the Reagan administration?
well, I think anybody from the Reagan administration, in fact, it's very interesting that a lot of the most active folks in our group have some connection to the Reagan administration. I think our expectations were a lot different. I think we felt that if we did a few of the things that were being done then, that we were going to have a sustained prosperity. I think we didn't understand well enough the changes in the international monetary system, where the U.S. essentially tacitly agreed to run trade deficits so the rest of the world would have dollars for their liquidity. That was a disastrous decision that was taken really with no debate, and that's why we have the trade deficits. I think we did not understand what it truly meant to have a competitive tax system. We had a big reform in 1986, and our aim was like it is now. Oh, let's get the marginal corporate rate down low, and that will allow us then to be competitive. We did that, and we went from having the second highest rate in the industrial world to the second lowest rate. Within 3 years, we again had the second highest rate because everyone else cut their tax rates and increased or instituted consumption taxes. So they got actually lower corporate rates, which makes it more attractive to have your corporate headquarters there rather than here. They also got a boost on their exports and a barrier to U.S. imports. We still, after whatever that is now, 30-some-5 years, we've not responded. We've been it's 25 years. We've been very slow on the uptake. Americans have a failing, if they have one major failing, it's we ignore too much what's happening around the rest of the world. Everybody around the rest of the world, even China today, they benchmark themselves off of our performance and our record. We've made it too easy for them to succeed at our expense because we haven't paid attention to what they're doing.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to say right now?
No, but thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, my pleasure.